Hello, everybody. Warm Wednesday for everyone. Here in Ireland, it's warm. In UK, it's warm. In France, it's more than
Very
warm.
here's
So,
not warm. It's 15.
yeah, so good to have you all here with us today. It's a pleasure to be with my friends, Charles and Silvia. And today we will talk about moral perfection. And moral perfection, at least for me, is connected with finding the reason why, answer your questions, why you're here, what's the purpose, why do you have to be here. So all these questions is related with the moral perfection, because as more you are evolved, more answers you will get it. So good evening, Elsa, my dear. Camille Brilla, thank you for being here with us and our other friends. So, good evening, Silvia.
Hello, good evening. I hope everyone is well today. And today we're going to talk about something very interesting, which is virtues. And it's something quite deep subject, really. It's really something to think about and to meditate ourselves is very important. So welcome everyone who's there with us today, and those who maybe be listening to us at a different time. Welcome everyone. Então, boa tarde a todos. Hoje nós vamos falar sobre as virtudes, que é um assunto bem importante para nós, para pensarmos a nossa individualidade e o nosso progresso espiritual, e é um assunto bem importante, e bem-vindo a todos que estão dividindo esse momento conosco. Thank you.
Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir Stevan, bonsoir Silvia, bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être de nouveau parmi vous ce soir. Merci pour votre fidélité. Aujourd'hui, on va essayer de vous parler de la perfection morale. Hein. C'est l'objectif vers lequel on peut se diriger. Hello, good evening, Steven. Good evening, Silvia. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Very happy to be here again with you today. We will talk a little bit about moral perfection, which is, let's say, the direction we should try to follow.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Let me show the video because our video today it's about 6 minutes, but the message is very good. And I want to say thank you to the Spiritist Federation of Florida with our friends from the Spiritist Academy produced this video, and I hope everyone like it. Let me share my screen. Okay, let's go.
Changes that have come over in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might drift away. So I've been telling old stories, singing songs that make me think about where I came from. That's the reason why I sing.
Porque nós, sociedade, nós estamos sem sentido. Perdemos o sentido da vida. Vidas vazias. A maioria de nós expulsou Jesus do coração. Adotamos condutas materialistas como mecanismos de fuga por falta de coragem de enfrentar as vicissitudes modernas. Em tempos de tanta derrotismo, pessimismo, fugas da existência corpórea, porque ninguém pode fugir da vida, eu sinto isso, eu sinto a graça de poder existir. Eu existo. Olha que coisa linda, eu existo. Viver é uma experiência encantadora. O sentido da vida é viver. Não temos como interromper esse ciclo de vida, porque a vida continua. Nós prosseguiremos vivendo. Nada morre. Tudo se transforma.
Embora tenhamos dificuldades, desafios, temos também todas as possibilidades de solução. Todas as possibilidades evolutivas. Cada existência reencarnatória é oportunidade para nos refazermos, refazendo nossos atos.
Transformarmos as dívidas em dádivas. Imprimirmos sentido ao nosso tempo e garantirmos que cada escolha, cada passo, seja pleno, rumo a esse grande movimento de autoaperfeiçoamento.
Eu, você, se sairmos do universo, fica faltando alguma coisa. Fica faltando. Se Deus nos criou, nós somos uma graça, nós somos uma experiência. Vou usar aqui uma força de expressão, somos milagres. A razão do sofrimento é solucionada através do amor. O amor dilui todo e qualquer sofrimento. É a luz que brilha em a noite terrível da solidão.
Now I'm sitting here before the fire, the empty room, the forest quiet, the flames that couldn't get any higher. Well, they've withered now, they've gone.
Convidamos você a pensar em Jesus. Agora, nesses dias tumultuosos, e encher o vazio existencial de trabalho em favor da vida que a todos nos honra.
Okay. Hope you like the video. Even though it's in The audio is in Portuguese, but it's a good translation, and it's worth to share it with everyone. And Divaldo is Divaldo everywhere. You know. So when we talk about moral perfection, it is the improvements we need to do by ourselves. Nobody will evolve on my behalf. Nobody will feel the pains I need to feel on my behalf. It's my problems, my pains, my perception of the world, not your perception of the world. So I needed to face those challenges. This is what I'm here for. This is what you are here for. And we need to improve ourselves every day, learning the lessons. Which lessons? The lessons of virtues, like Silvia said at the beginning when she introduced the talk today, the virtues. And we will talk about these virtues today, but I like to start this and ask for you, Charles. I said perfection. What does human perfection consist of?
That's a good one. Very open question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back a little bit to Jesus. And Jesus, this question was made to him. What is the most important? What is the law, the most important law? And his answer was very simple and straightforward. Love God above all, and do love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. So you talked about Divaldo at the beginning. It was a pleasure to hear his voice. He told once in a lecture he gave in France, and probably he repeated it elsewhere as well, that when you take the gospel, so it's very, small letter, very thin paper, a lot of pages and so on, you can summarize all this in one word, which is love. So all the rest in the gospel is how to apply, how to giving examples, different cases, and so on. But it's everything about love. So clearly, I mean, the human perfection is when we can fulfill for the human who can fulfill the law of justice, of love, and of charity in his most biggest extent. That is what we could summarize up for the moral perfection. Then, of course, we can, but okay, let's stop here. Let's wait for the next questions to go more in detail.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. My dear Silvia, since we start to talk about the virtues, because we cannot love just following the same train of thought as Charles. When we talk about love, we cannot have love without having virtue. And what is the most meritorious virtue we have?
Wow, that's a big question. Well, love is, I think, for us to, I think love is like a level to reach. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, in chapter 17, There is a quote from Matthew, which comes from the Sermon on the Mount, which are the most beautiful words ever said in the human race. And he's quoting from Jesus, and he says, "But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which spitefully use you and persecute you. For if you love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." So this is from Matthew 5, which is the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. I think what Jesus is saying here is what we need to do in order to become that person who learns to love. And I think we have many good qualities. This person will say, we have many good qualities, but sometimes we have so many bad qualities as well that they seem to outweigh one on the other. And, they say the greatest of virtues to one is kindness without any interest in getting it back. And I think, if we think about those words that Jesus says, love your enemies. So it's very difficult for us to love our enemies, because people who hurt us, even though we might not hate them, but that feeling of hurt sometimes it stays with us, and it's not a very good feeling. And then he says, bless them that curse you, that mistreat you, that do things that are hurtful to you, and pray for them who do that. And then he says, those who persecute you, you pray for them. And then he said, because, he talks about the publicans, but we talk about, isn't that what everybody else does? They only love those who love them. So if we wanted to be a good person, a virtuous person, we needed to have something more than everybody else. And I think that's the recipe, and it's very interesting as well, because in the gospel, according to Spiritism, they explain, the Spirits teach us that in the point in which we find ourselves, most of us anyway, I'm sure there are other people who have already reached that certain level, that is, we find it very difficult to forgive people, to forgive our enemies. And what he recommends is pray for them. And it's the same thing as Jesus said. Pray for them. Do not wish them any harm. Do not be happy if something bad happens to that person. And if they try to become friends, make no objection. Try to open your heart and be friends with them again. And I think this is easier for us to reach that kind of level. We can always pray for someone who we find that is uncaring, doesn't care for us, or only asks us for things when they need something. Otherwise, they completely forget us. All those things that usually hurts us, because we feel devalued. And I think that's another thing. We should never allow anybody to makes us feel devalued, because as children of God, we have our own value on ourselves, and we should hold on to that. That's other things as well that we need to learn. And I think when we are able to come out of ourselves and pray for someone who has hurt us, or try to see a different point of view. I remember when I was young, when I was a teenager, one day I came home and I had a discussion with someone from school, and my mother said, well, maybe she wasn't very happy. Maybe something happened to her. And that's why she was rude to you. You shouldn't really take to heart. You should really pray for her. And that maybe tomorrow she'll be all right. She'll be happier. And I remember I was furious because I thought that my mother always saw somebody else's point of view. Because, but she was one who said that. But she would always say, yes, but maybe something happened, maybe they were unhappy, maybe they were very worried about something, maybe they're not feeling very well. And I could feel that, oh no, there she goes again, always seeing the other person's point of view. But now I think that I was able to have such a lesson. And it's exactly what the Spiritist doctrine teaches us, what we read here, moral perfection in the pray for the person. Give, if you have some part of goodness, give it. If you are able to do something good to someone, do it. Don't expect anything in return. Maybe that person will never recognize all the good that you've done, but I think the good in itself makes us feel better. When we do something that good. I mean, silly things like you stand up in a train, in a tube, to give a seat to somebody else. It's a silly thing. But for that person who's sitting, maybe sometimes means a lot. Not for us, but you feel good that you've done some good action when we are able to, say someone is being said something to you and you can, oh, it's all right, don't mind, they probably in one of those funny days, and please God help them, and I think when we do that, we are able to slowly is to learn, then we are learning to love. But it's those little steps, and never really expect anything in return, because do good for goodness sake, and that you makes you feel better just doing it anyway. And if you only have return that's not so good, it's okay. We all give what we have. I think somebody make a point today about this. We only give what we have. We cannot give any, we can't demand that people do other things. So I think virtues, we work on them. And I think just to finish here, I made a note here of what that goodness is. The virtue is to be good, charitable, hardworking, sober, and modest. And the duty, do the happiness of your neighbor, and help others. Because he says the true spiritist is recognized by his moral transformation and the effort that he makes to dominate his bad instincts. So I think this is it's like Jacob's ladder. We slowly, we do one thing at a time, and eventually you'll be able to give that love that Jesus talked about, that is all transforming. But it's little things. It's a prayer to someone. It's help open a door for someone, give a smile to someone who's looking a bit, walking in the street as if they have the weight of the world. Just say, give a smile, say hello, just get them out of that. Sometimes it's easy to do that. So eventually we will be the people that we are. We will be who we are, a child of God, and an enlightened being. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's how I felt it.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Thanks.
You did, my dear. And it is. My 2 cents is. I think when you do all this together, we do the charity, but the true charity, not the charity. Okay, I will do this in exchange of that. No, you do that the action. You do the action. The action could be giving money, console someone, help someone. The action of charity, when you do from your heart, because it is another person you are willing to help. Perhaps is the time we exercise the love, we exercise the uh, 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 all the virtues together, because sometimes we need to help our enemies. Sometimes we need to do something for them. And um, that's why Kardec said, without charity there is no salvation. And let me see if I have any questions for anybody here. Oh, Camille said he loved the video. I love this video, gets me every time. Daniel Nogueira, good evening, Daniel. Thank you for being here. But I'd like to propose here a kind of open question for three of us. Instead of direct this question to someone else, I would say the open question, we can debate here. We talk about here learning, virtues, charity, love our enemies, love, well, we talk about this, but what is the relationship between responsibility, duty, freedom and commitment, and moral act?
Ah,
Simple like that.
yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I would maybe when you told about your enemy, of course, the virtue is disinterested, so you do it without thinking. It's like a natural
Yeah.
behavior which comes directly from the heart. Okay, but at the beginning you need to think a little bit. If you pray for your enemy and your enemy, thanks to your prayer, gets better, he may stop to be your enemy. So it's in your interest to pray for your enemy. That's the reasoning behind. But we should not reason. We should have it. Once we understood this, okay, so just let's do it. Love anyone, even the enemies. So to make the link with your question, this is the we have the freedom, the free will. So we can choice select between good and evil. We can select to love our enemy or to hate him. This is our choice. So our freedom is lying into this free will that God has given to all the human beings. Of course, the freedom and the free will is developing more and more according to the evolution. A lot of people, for instance, with low evolution are not free. For instance, the one with an addiction to buy something or whatsoever, or the one who always wants to have the last material stuff, whatever, he's not free because he's depending on something that he cannot get free of. So the real freedom is really coming only with the evolution. But this free will is not for free, I would say so, because we are free to do whatever we want, but we are also responsible for what we have freely chosen. If we have freely chosen, we are responsible because we have chosen it. We cannot blame anyone or else. The responsibility is fully ours. So this is also a goodness to know that the responsibility, we cannot avoid escape from the consequences of our choices, and that the freedom goes with the responsibility. So this helps in developing our freedom, our free will towards the good. because even when we do something good, we are also responsible for having doing something good, and our conscience will make such that this is uh, answering us. So Kardec also was an educator, and he told that education is more than just instruction. Instruction is to learn to calculate, to learn languages, grammar, and so on. So this is instruction. But education is to give the good habits. Is the art of giving the good habits. And this is then also a fundamental part for developing. The principle is the children. We are responsible for the education of the children who has been, how to say, put in our hands. And we should really educate them in this way, freedom, but also responsibility for what we have done, duties which are good habits that we acquire through the thanks to the education, and this at the end is we are when we are committed with, of course, we are more and more behaving in the goodness. So it's everything linked together.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm not like smart than you guys, but I I like to read what the Spirit said to Kardec. This is in the question 636 of the Spirit's book. God's law is the same for everyone, but evil depends particularly on the desire one has to commit it. Good is always good, and evil is always evil. Whatever a man's position may be, the difference lies in the degree of his responsibility. So everything is on us. At the moment we do an act, we know what is right, what is wrong. We have this because the God's laws, it is in our conscience. We know. If you want to keep going on that action, it's our responsibility. And for every action, you always have a reaction. What do you think, my dear Silvia?
Yes, I mean, just remembering something that Charles said, that we are free to do whatever we want, but then we have to be able to bear the consequence of what we do. Nothing is forbidden, but the responsibility as well. And I think this is very, very important because, uh, in, as you said, God, the Spirit teaches us that God's laws is in our conscience. So, giving this, every single person is already born with the knowledge of good and evil. So, if we choose to do something wrong, it's a choice. Sometimes we know that sometimes we have spiritual influences. We know that, and the situation is such, the ambient where we live, we know all this way quite a lot, but ultimately I think is a choice, because we do have sometimes a lot of negative influence from the spiritual world and from the world around us as well, from spirits from both sides of life. But they are able to get into our mind somehow, because our behavior is such that allows them. Um, I'm reading, sort of rereading, restudying one of Andre Louis' books. And this person, in his house, he's got these two obsessors who practically live in his house. And they completely control him. They want to drink, so he goes and drinks. But he's like that. And it's interesting, it's such a really fantastic lesson to learn, because they are there. They have, a lot of influence, and to the point that he commits the most horrendous crime. And he is given incentive, of course, but it's his choice. He plans things. He goes and he creates situation so he can do what he wants to do. And it's very, very important, this, because we see that there is the influence of the spirit that can manage him, but he himself is in the same level of the spirit who's controlling him. He chooses to do it. He plans to do it. And I think this is very important for us, because we need to say no to our own things. I mean, going back to what, I read before, that the true spiritist, or the good person, is known by their moral transformation, the effort they make to control their own negative instincts. So I think that's one thing we really need to think about, because if we make an effort to get better, to be a better person, this kind of influence will be less, because, of course, the spiritual benefactors will come and will give us more resource to fight against evil. So if we make a little effort, we will have the good spirits helping us and guiding us and sustaining us in the moments in which we are weak. Because we choose what we want to do, right or wrong. So even under influence, that they wouldn't be able to have that much power over us if we would not allow them. If we something inside us, it's almost like connive with the other. You meet halfway because you're the same. But if we make the effort that, no, I'm not going to make those kind of mistakes anymore. I'm not going to have that kind of thoughts anymore. I'm going to make an effort. I'm going to pray instead of keeping anger, because anger and hatred and all these kind of things are they weigh on us, on our spirit. And it's funny, because if you if anybody watched Star Wars, in one of the stories, why Darth Vader, who became sort of half human, half a machine, completely no feeling, no sentiments at all, but why he was a really good person. He was a person of light, but in one moment he became really angry and hateful, and he went to this most horrible vengeance against some people, and that's what turned him into the dark side. I mean, it's interesting, because we find this in culture. The spirits teach us in culture. I mean, if you give in to hatred, you go to the dark side, even though you had some weight, you had some good thing. So that's why it's very important for us to be aware of what we do, what we think, what kind of words we use, and to really pray, because prayer is what sustains us, is what brings to us the good spirits and the goodness. That's what I feel really. Our responsibility ultimately is with us.
It is. It is. It is, my dear. And also, I like um, in the Spirit's book, the question 643, which is complements with 680. What question 643 says to us? There is nobody unable to do good. Only the selfish person never finds an opportunity to do it. Being in contact with others is enough to provide you with a chance of doing good. And every day of your life offers you such a possibility. So long as you are not blinded by selfishness, doing good goes beyond being charitable. It also includes being useful to the full extent of your powers whenever your assistance may be necessary. It is exactly what you both said. I just like to put this now in the words of the spirits, just to corroborate what we are saying here. And we do have a question here from Camille. Uh, let's do for you, Silvia. How long it takes to achieve perfection?
Oh, I think Charles can join in as well. It takes as long as we it takes as long as the effort that we make to be better. It doesn't have a stipulated time. If we start from now making changes, the way we think, the way we say, the way we do, if we learn to be more forgiving, to be more giving, to be more indulgent, I think one of the greatest things I think that we learn in Christianity is the question of being indulgent. Like the gospel teaches us, be indulgent to others and be hard on yourself. And like Jesus said, we are so able to see the little speck in somebody else's eyes, but we cannot see the huge one that we have in our own. And I think to be indulgent, to see the other person's point of view, to try to do good as much as we can, and also to read it, study, to learn new things, and to reach out to help and um, to be a person that is giving and indulgent. This word weighs very much on me because sometimes I'm not that indulgent. So I think, like he says here in the gospel, forgive others, because if you wanted to be forgiven, forgive others. And I think, though, like I said before, I don't think it's overnight. It's step by step. Every decision we make, be aware of what we do, and it will reach the point of enlightenment, because the light is already within us. Is the kind of taking all the stuff that's in covering it to uncover our own. So I don't think there is a time, but each person creates their own opportunities to achieve. And of course, the more we work on being better, the better, the earlier we reach there. But some people reach faster than others. But there is one thing I think, that given that God is merciful, that we may take millennia, and we know that many spirits take millennia, but there is only one way, light. I think there is a question in the spirits book, I can never remember the number, but Kardec asked the spirits, but will everyone be enlightened? And the spirits respond, it's our destiny. So doesn't matter how long it takes, we will be enlightened, because we are light already. But each of us will take the time required that we need, that we make for ourselves. I don't know if Charles like to
Yes.
add
So
something different.
if we consider the fact that the absolute perfection is only God, we will never reach perfection. Or in other words, we need an infinite time to reach perfection. because absolute perfection, like when you do the mathematics, you draw a curve, you have the asymptote, and the curve is coming close to the asymptote, but it never touches it. But at a given point in time, only with the thickness of the line, you cannot see the difference anymore. So I fully agree with the answer of Silvia. It depends on the efforts we are doing to reach that goal. If some are quicker, some are slower, so it's up to everyone. And interestingly, you thought about the indulgence, you thought about forgiveness, but just to recall, the huge consistency of the Spiritist body of knowledge. Kardec is saying, out of charity, no salvation. Okay, it's not out of Spiritism, no salvation. It's out of charity, no salvation. So the atheist which is doing charity will be saved, and the Spiritist who is doing nothing will not be saved, at least in this life. Only when he will reach that level. And what is the definition of the charity? It's a question 886. It's benevolence for everyone, even for the enemies, as we told already. Indulgence, as you just commented, Silvia, for the imperfection of our neighbors, because we also are not, we do not, the absolute perfection is only God, so we all have still some imperfection. So without indulgence, how can we live together? And forgiveness of the harm that the other may have caused us, because as we have imperfection, of course, sometimes we may harm someone, and we need to have this forgiveness. Otherwise, how can we again live together and build things together? So you see, everything is consistent, and we always reach, how to say, it's far away from just throwing a coin or doing something like this. And in order to illustrate also the goodness, we should also question a little bit what is the opposite of the goodness. What is the worst what is the worst imperfection? And the spirits are answering selfishness and pride. So selfishness is exactly the opposite of the charity, isn't it? And there is a word, I was reading again this chapter 12 of the book 3 of the Spirit's book about moral perfection, which is the subject of today. And I did not count, but it's one of the words which most come in the answers for the Spirit is disinterestedness. So disinterestedness does not mean you don't care. Disinterestedness means you do without awaiting any reward, anything back from what you have done. And this disinterestedness is something also very important. And what is exactly the consequence of the selfishness is the personal interest. Me first. Me, why me? Because pride and so on. So I do things that will benefit me first. While the charity is the opposite, is going with abnegation. You sacrifice your personal interest if it is for the sake or for the goodness of the global collective interest. So these are clearly the signs where that we can observe in ourselves, and that we can recognize how far we still are from this true charity, this true disinterestedness.
Yeah, Charles. It is absolutely right. And our friend Marco Davis here, he mentioned Kant, the philosopher, and it's good. Thank you for mentioning him, Marco, because then we can go support what we are saying here not just in Kardec, but what the spirits have said, because Kant, he believed that the shared ability of humans to reason should be the basis of morality. So, freedom for him is the base of morality. And this ability takes the reason for the uh, 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 moral meaning for everyone. And also, he believed that all humans should have the right to common dignity and respect. In other words, is exactly what Charles said to us right now. It's freedom. So there is no right or wrong. It's simple. And I love when Charles says this: atheist who is charitable, who does things without any interest, he does this because he thinks is right. He's, let's say, he's saved. A spiritist who goes to the spirit center every day, do the gospel to home, do everything, but is not charitable. At least now one won't be saved. It is the freedom of think, the freedom of choose your own ways, the freedom of choose the battles you want to take. It's up to you.
And Steven, there is also another subject linked to it, is autonomy and the heteronomy.
Exactly. Yeah, but this is Kant. This is Kant. Kant is the basis for the autonomy. Yeah?
Exactly. You
That-
do good for doing good. You don't do good to go to paradise or to avoid going to hell.
yeah.
This is heteronomy is like this. You have, I don't know, le bâton et la carotte, as we tell in French. You have the stick and the carrot on the other side. The carrot to attract you to the path, and the stick if you don't do what they ask you to do. So this is definitively heteronomy, and it induces you to do it for the interest of not getting the recompense and avoiding the punishment. Whilst the autonomy is exactly the opposite. The
Yeah.
autonomy is you do good for doing good because that's it. With your free will, no, without awaiting anything in return. This is, and the true, the how to say, the world where these pure spirits are living is absolutely fully autonomous. The heteronomy is still a characteristic of our earth, of the most of the traditional religion, of also management style, of the people giving rewards and making blames on the other side. But this is part of the past. The human being more and more is not motivated by those type of procedure anymore. Is more motivated by the autonomy. When you give a task to someone, you give the instructions, you give all what is necessary for fulfilling the tasks, and then you let the people do it freely. And this is what most of the collaborators today are looking for.
Exactly.
I think going from what you said, Stevan, as well, it always reminds us that Jesus said, not all those who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my Father who's in heaven. And I think this is a very important thing, because the whole thing of trying to be kind and forgiving and not having hatred or desires for vengeance and giving good in if you receive something bad, give good, in, as reply. It creates this, I think, because the kingdom of God is not something that you're going to achieve, but is to build the kingdom of God on earth, to make earth the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And that's the aim. Is not for us to go to heaven, but to create heaven on earth. That's why, we try to be good and to be forgiving and loving and charitable and indulgent and virtuous. Because
Yes.
the people who are truly virtuous, as they say, they don't know it. They don't know it. They just do it for, like as Charles was saying, we do it. But those who are truly virtuous, they don't know that. They just do things because that's how they are.
There is no reason to doing it.
Yes, and that's I think what we need to do, to achieve that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Marcos, for mentioning Kant and allow us to talk a little bit about autonomy and autonomy. This is something very, very present in our life here, and perhaps we can talk more this in upcoming shows. So, can we finish here? Can I go to the announcements? So, I think we explore the topic, and this topic will help us for next week topic. Thank you, Camille. Camille said yes. Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you, Camille, for being here with us. And today we have a lot number of participants. So we have more than 25 participants we had today. So it's good. It's good. Okay, let me share my screen here. Next week, the topic. Oh, I didn't change the date. Sorry. So next week it is 7th of June. So not 31st. Next week is 7th of June. And the topic of next week it is racism. It is one of the topics of the moment. We are seeing a lot of episodes of racism elsewhere. I am not pointing the fingers here, so we will talk about this topic next Wednesday. Okay, so it's not 31st of May. Next Wednesday is 7th of June. Okay, so the philosophy, the study of spiritist philosophy. Our friend Fabrício Assunção, he organized the group for this study. So please contact him if you want to be part of the group. Every Saturday, Guilherme Dias, Munir, Gariba, and Charles, they hold a Medium's Book online course. It's take place at 10:30 a.m. London time. The details and how to access to this course you have on your screen. Also, every Monday, our friend Bon Paris, she's giving the stud at 8 p.m. from the book Astral City, No Solar. And Rafael Caldas and Faye Waddington, they have every other Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. London time, conversations on mediumship. And this is it from us today. I hope you enjoy. I hope you like it. Again, if you want us to talk about a specific topic or something, tell us. Write to us an email. Write to spiritismireland@gmail.com. Spiritismireland@gmail.com. And it will be a pleasure for us to talk about topics you would like to be addressed here. So, my friends, again, it was a pleasure to have you all here with me.
Good night.
And thank you for the opportunity and the Kardec Radio for the opportunity to gave us to be here as well. Merci, Charles. Obrigado, Silvia.
Thank you. Thank you very
See you
much.
tous. Thanks all the best.
Bye. Have a good week,
Bonsoir,
everyone. God
bye-bye.
bless. Have a good week.